Hello and welcome to our Learn Python series. What do we have today? So, a picture is worth 1,000 words. That is what we are going to discuss today. Means how do we actually visualize the data, not just in the text, but now we're going to have nice visualization. And I will show you Matplot library in action where we are going to visualize the student data analysis that we did in the previous chapter. So let's get down to it. Let's see how Python is going to help us in data visualization. Let's start with the libraries we're going to use. NumPy for our analysis, Matplotlib, that is going to be used for data visualization. We are also going to use SciPy, which is advanced computation library, but we are only going to use the small subset that related to the stats functionality. So we're going to use the same students data that we have. One thing that I have changed is that instead of calling our variable mean and standard deviation, I'm going to use our more formal nomenclature, that is mu and sigma. Let's start with our data visualization of grade frequencies. We are first going to start with our pie chart, which will show us the slices of pie of like what percent of students are in got grade A, B, C, and so the matplot has a function called pie which is used to draw a pie chart. First, we are just going to give us the data that we are going to use, which is grade frequencies. So let's plot this. As you can see that we have a pie chart, but it's not very informative. We have the pie slices, but we don't know which slices for A, B, C, D, F, or more. So how do we fix that? The pie function takes a second parameter where we can pass the labels, and our labels are in our array called grade values, and we will pass that. And now you can see that all the pie slices are labeled with the grade letters. One more thing, if you give this chart to somebody, they don't know what they're looking at. They see a pie chart but don't know much about it. That means you need to tell them that this data is about grade frequency. So we will use the title function on in matplot. What it does is let's see what it does. Now you can see it has plotted or drawn a title on top of this chart. Now this visual has become very clear that it's a grade frequency pie chart and what these slices are all about. This is not the only way you can represent the data. Somebody may want to see this data in a bar chart form. So there's a function called bar where we're going to pass. So on the bar will take at least two parameters on the what are we plotting on the x-axis and what are we plotting on the y-axis. So and we are going to use the same, we are going to give it a title. So let's see, it's nice, but this chart does not tell us what is on the x-axis, what is on the y-axis. That means we need to be able to assign some kind of labels. So there is a function called x label and y label. Let's use that. Now you can see that the vertical bar chart is showing that on x-axis we have grade letters, on y-axis we have frequency of this. Now there's another way to represent the same data, and that is the horizontal bar. You can see that nothing changed, but now we are using a new function called bar h. We are passing this exactly the same values we passed for the bar. The only change that is going to happen is, but before we say, let's look at this thing and see what the issue is. Now you can see that since we are saying it's a horizontal bar, on the x-axis it says grade, on the y-axis it says frequency, which is not correct. Because now on the x-axis it is frequency and on the y-axis it is grade. So how do we fix it? We are gonna switch the x and y label, and let's see, and now you can see now the chart, the horizontal bar chart looks good. Now you can see the same data analysis, same results, but represented in three different visual forms. So what this tells us is that depending on how somebody wants to see the results or what kind of visual makes sense for a certain set of analysis, you pick the right set of visual for it. Now we have the raw data for our marks and attendance. It will be nice if we can see the distribution of it. In Matplot has a function called hist, which will give us the histogram representation of this raw data of marks and distribution, we're gonna again give the title, X label, Y label. All right, one thing you will notice that the second parameter to hist function is bins10. What this means is that it is telling the hist function that all the data, or that 150 data points, split them into 10 buckets. If we do that, let's see, it works. We have a distribution histogram, but you can see it's not very granular. If somebody is interested in making it more granular, how do you do it? You actually create more bins. So now you can see that the marks distribution is looking a little bit more granular on the histogram. So you can use the same hist function for now our attendance data as well, which will give us the attendance distribution. We are going to use same 30 bins to keep it granular, and on the x-axis now we have attendance. Now you have two histograms, which is showing distribution of marks, distribution of attendance. There is another way to represent the distribution, and if you remember from your statistics class, it is a bell curve form, or the distribution curve that you can use to show it. So I'm going to show you the code that we are going to use to plot our distribution curve, or the bell curve for the marks distribution. I'll quickly explain this thing. The histogram is a discrete set of data, whereas the histogram, the bell curve, is a smooth curve that is kind of fitted on the data. So what do we need? That now we're using the linspace function from NumPy, which we are saying that I need evenly spaced values on x-axis. We are saying give me 100. On the y side, on the y-axis, since we don't have a discrete values for y-axis to plot this curve, we are going to use the probability distribution function from SciPy. You don't need to worry about this, what this probability distribution function is and what it does. For now, I'll explain this in subsequent chapters when we do more advanced data visualization. But for now, what we did is we have created the data for x and y axis, and let's see how this works. Now you can see that we have a nice distribution bell curve for the histogram. So now you can see that in one case that we have the same data analysis that we did, but we use 3 different forms to represent it. And then we also shown that we have superimposed 2 sets of data. So now you can see that how data visualization helps us in looking data in a different form. So now you have a choice between showing your analysis or data in a text form or in the visual form, depending on what kind of audience you have, or how do you want to represent the results of your analysis. Thanks for learning with us. Do subscribe and like our channel. For more information, do visit our website. Till next lesson, take care. Goodbye.